Hello, Starborns! My name is Potato, and this is the final episode of our current run at Space Skyrim. I'm with my good friend, Alice. How you doing, Alice?
Hello. Pronouns are she, they, and yeah, for this final episode, we'll be looking back at Starfield, which we've been doing this podcast for about 10 weeks, especially with delay. We've been discussing about our experiences of the game, the main story, as well as the factions. And now we just get to look back on all the notes we made and what we just thought about it. So I think it's just going to be a huge skim through it. But if you want to have a whole details of all those episodes, then the podcast is available on not only YouTube, but also on the audio services, which is all provided if like episode 7 and 8 is up on the audio service. But if it's there, then you should definitely check it out.
I'm getting called out in the episode about putting up the episode. I love it. I will put them up as soon as I finish this episode recording. We will get those episodes up for you guys. I keep forgetting to put them up because my priority is the main podcast, which we've been doing. But yes, we will try and get this up for... you have the entirety of these podcasts. And if you're listening to this as an audio podcast, it's already up. So well done. You're living in the future. Speaking of the future, we are talking about the near future of Starfield. Ooh. What did you think of Starfield? I mean, we've got a review discussion. We've got a spoiler cast. This is kind of like our overall takeaway from it. Now we're kind of like... I think both of us have stopped playing it about 2 weeks ago now, right? I think this is like after we've basically like how we feel after like the honeymoon period's worn off, and how do we feel now? Basically, is what I think this episode's going to be more or less about.
Yes.
I still really enjoyed the game. I thought it was fantastic. Still up there in my game of the year discussion, but there is some stuff that I've soured on a little bit, but we will discuss that later on in the show. So where would you like to start, Alice? You've got notes to bring up or something you wanted to discuss?
Well, for this one, we only like picking out the most apparent moments from it. So episode 1, we just caved in to do the early access, which allows us to play the game for 5 days before the actual game release. And to be honest, launch is like kind of a bit crazy to get into, but once we got into it, like I think there was a lot of exciting things, and I think there was only one bug where lift doors acted weird, but apart from that, it works for like the first few hours, which is good. But I understand some people may have struggled to get into it because of the bugs, but I think it's just basically luck.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this in multiple episodes of this podcast. I had no bugs for the majority of my run until I was like mopping up all the side quests. I didn't really have any major bugs or even like anything game breaking. Anyway, I had a couple of funny ones where like a character will be like floating or like my head will just disappear for a second. Silly things like that, but nothing game breaking until later on.
Mine's a bit worse because I had a few crashes and freezes. Not a lot, but I noticed a lot of bugs with the outposts. I've encountered 1 or 2 game-breaking bugs, which I managed to get through, but didn't have any issues with like saves not loading. But I think it's more apparent during my second playthrough where I had more crashes or freezing. But I didn't actually experience as many bugs as before, but I think I noticed bugs where ships spin around in the Crimson Fleet key, as well as the walks.
Oh, I saw that one. That's funny, yeah.
Yeah.
And the rock following me around through space. That happened to me. Like, literally, I'll be flying from area to area, and there'll just be a rock that follows me.
And yet, Bethesda still hasn't released a huge patch that fixes a lot of bugs, but I think they only like dealt with a few bugs in some of the patches they release. But they did get rid of the chests with infinite money glitch. They fixed that, and yet it's more important than the game-breaking bugs they have in the game.
Exactly. I'm hoping that they'll fix some of these bugs going forward. I mean, I've said this in the previous. Again, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I've said this in the previous episode. They have confirmed they will be supporting this game for another 5 years.
Oh yeah,
and the game has been super successful. It's been one of the most successful games in Xbox history, and it's like selling like hotcakes and like. So I can't imagine them just letting it just rot. I'm sure this is going to be supported for a long time, and people will be coming to this in a long time. I think like we played it day one, or even we played it 5 days early. But I think there'll be people playing this and like getting this game like a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and starting it from scratch. And I think that's exciting. So hopefully they'll be fixing bugs by that point.
I think the chances are that the unofficial Starfield patch will be released as a mod eventually.
Oh yeah,
just like they did for like Elder Scrolls and Fallout games. But according to the notes for episode 1, there's some really huge ones where I focused on like science and resources, pretty much. Yeah, I think it's science and technology, and this really paid off for me. But while it has a steep learning curve with complicated controls, which I've tried to get my head around it, and annoying, but I like the lock picking. The dialogue screens are perfect, but I think it's pretty similar to Fallout 4, I'm not sure. But the genetic salon changes your entire body as well as changing your sex. So instead of like going to the GIC in the real world, where you have to wait years to get appointed to the first appointment, and that's dealing with your psychological thing, and then you have to wait much longer to get all the medication to help you like get white hormones in your body. Whereas genetic salon, all you had to do is pay like, I think it was 500 credits to change your sex. That's it. You just pop in.
The future.
Yeah, do it over the counter. And yeah, there's even some dialogue when you get to Paradiso. It's like, oh, if you like to change your hair, your sex and everything, it's just acting as if like changing your entire body is like a casual thing to do.
Yeah, which is interesting because like that's kind of like a thing that they have in like Cyberpunk as well, as like augmentation and changing you, just being like yeah, it's interesting. I do think that's the thing that we will have in the future for sure.
I think it's likely to annoy some people because I think there's dealing with this disability discourse, and I feel like if you lose limbs, you just lost it. And there's those kind of people who don't like augmentations because they feel they shouldn't cheat around like losing a limb or some sort when people are like dealing with disabilities in life and feel that they don't want to be cured. But then I think they eventually like try to expand it over to trans people and saying like, well, if you're trans, you have to go through like medications or magic like that to get the hormones there, and you don't get to change your thing because otherwise being trans means you look bad, and it feels as if you shouldn't be allowed to change your body to your ideal self and deal with the suffering. And I think, excuse me, I was actually disagreeing with the people there, but I think the truth is, like, you can change your body whether there's an effort there. The only thing is that you wouldn't be able to escape the suffering you had when you're born of a different sex there, which is why that when genetic salon could be something that people will be having a lot of complaints about, because it treats as if changing your sex is like a very casual thing to do, and like and I feel there's going to be a lot of complaints about it, and yet more people are complaining about pronouns in the game than the actual genetic salon.
Yeah, I was going to say the pronoun thing, that blew my mind. Like that one guy who was literally screaming at the camera about about pronouns. I'm like, dude, just get a grip. Seriously. Like, the game lets you pick if you're a male or a female anyway, so what difference does it mean? It's just literally just the term pronoun, like, freaks him out. I don't understand. It's so weird.
Also,
like, mate, get a life.
Also, there's some, like, mods where you remove the pronouns option, but this being like gets banned on like Nexus mods, and it's just seen because I think it's probably due to like lack of respect for people's choice of pronouns. But oh my God,
it's whatever. It's just people need to get a grip. I'm going to be honest.
And yet, I haven't seen a lot of discussions about the genetic salons and how they allow you to change your sex or anything like that. And that
the
just
people
really baffles me. What the fuck?
It's because the people complaining who haven't actually played the game and don't actually know what options are in there. That's what it is. The people who actually the people who like are screaming about pronouns have ever even realised that that's an option in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. I think we kind of got off topic a little bit here, though. So
we're already like doing the best moments of episode 1. So genetic salon is definitely on topic, and it also mentions about pronouns too. But I think it was talked about in more detail in the later episodes. But episode 2, photo mode. I think we're pretty much fans of that. Do you agree?
I used it quite a lot, yeah. I normally don't bother with photo mode, but this game is just, there's so much, like, you customize your character, as we were just talking about. You customize your ship, and there's so many unique planets and places to go and locations that I feel like photo mode's like really cool. I like to use it. Like when you're building stuff, I was like, ooh, I want to take a photo of my ship, and I want to take a photo of my character laying on the ship like it's a sports car, because I thought that was hilarious. Or take a picture of my base and all that. I think it's awesome to have photo mode. I think that's a great option.
And they also appear in loading screens, and that's really cool. The only thing is there's a cap on how many photos you can take, which is a bit sucky. Also, when you're on a PC, it captures the same resolution as you take them. Like, I was doing like 720p to speed up on like gain levels there, and when I took the photo in like 720p, when I increased the resolution, it causes the photo in the loading screen to shrink. And like, what the fuck?
I have a question for you, actually. Again, this might be a little bit off topic, but this is a big debate before the game came out. You said you just played it in 720p, right? Were you playing it in 60 frames?
Oh, that's a good question. Because we know that Starfield is like 30 frames per second, which normally doesn't bother me. But when I was playing on PC, I tend to go for 60 frames per second whenever possible. But if it's 45 frames per second, it's all right as long as it just runs. Because I think usually when it gets 30 frames per second, it just makes me think like, oh, the computer's like bottlenecking, and I'm not sure about that. But you also have to bear in mind that 60 frames per second is not like a maximum, because you have screens that has increased refresh rates. Like if your computer is like 185 hertz, you need to be aiming for 185 frames per second to take advantage of its, just make it more smoother. But it also gives you some pseudo motion blur because of how many scenes it shows for the human eye. Because the human eye usually deals with 60 frames per second, but has a natural thing where it just blends all the scenes there. So it looks as if there's a little bit of a motion blur to them, if that makes sense.
No, I get that completely. But I was going to ask as well. So, as in a gameplay experience, do you prefer playing the game 720p with 60 frame or like 45 frames, 60 frames upwards, or do you like playing it 4K and 30? Like, which kind of experiences did you prefer as to play? Because I've only played it 4K 30 because I only play it on the Xbox.
I would do it 4K with 30 with ray tracing on the Xbox. For the PC though, getting a 4K monitor is like a luxury, because I think you can get 4K monitors for cheap these days, but it's not only that. You'll need to make sure the graphics card is up to the job. Like if you want the 4K, a huge guarantee of it, then you'll probably be buying something like 480 or 4090. But if you get something like 4070, it just seems you're not going to go full 4K with it. If it makes sense.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. I also wanted to say as well that, as I said, before the game came out, people made a massive fuss about 30 frames versus 60. I've really enjoyed this game, and I've not really thought about it since, to be honest. I feel like the 30 frames a second seems fine to me.
Same.
And I didn't think that would be the case before I played it. I thought it'd be a bit like jarring, but I quite enjoy it. It's still fine. I obviously prefer it in 60, but I haven't really. It hasn't detracted from my experience at all, personally.
I just think the 30 frames per second is like a treat. Like, I was playing Skyrim, and there's a compatibility option in Xbox where you can play it in 60 frames per second, got in that, and I was like playing the PC game, because what would you expect 30 frames per second to be for the certain games like Professor games? Like, if you play in 30 frames per second, I mean, that's what we used to. It's only like if you get on the PC, you have superpowered hardware and you can achieve above 60 frames per second, then you're pretty much like really treated to it. And I think that's right, like as if you earned it. Whereas on consoles, it's just basically what you get. I think it's just people are expecting too much, like as if 60 frames per second is a norm for everything, which is why like if they see like if it's 40 frames per second, they assume it's like really bad, when they're really forgetting the PlayStation 2 days.
I was just about to say that. It's like we're both a bit on the like bit older than like some of the gamers that are out there. Like we grew up with like the NES, and you had the Sega Mega Drive, right? I had the NES when I started out. And then, like, I've grown up with 30 frames per second. I've been growing up with 8-bit and 16-bit, and like looking at like the Final Fantasy 7 characters are just blocks with blocks for hands.
Yeah,
you know, it's like I don't like graphic fidelity. Like it's cool and all, but I don't like gameplay's king as far as I'm concerned. It always has been, it always will be. Like, I'll still go back and play Mario 1 over most, like, Super Mario Brothers 1 or Super Mario Brothers 3 over most current games, like, quality-wise. But yeah, I kind of, again, got off topic a little bit.
we have been. So, according to episode 2, and that's when I just started to, like, went wild. Like, I've been going into planets to kill a lot of animals, starting with Heisenberg, and also I've been using safe state exploits where I keep reloading the cell in order to get legendary loot. So I pretty much like had a huge head start there. Also, I started to, I think I started the 3-star Rangers quest line, and that's what I've been doing with. But it's also when I discovered my first crash, when I got stuck on the loading screen doing fast travel, as well as a crash to dashboard when I'm like jumping between planets. Also, there's a door jam, which I cannot enter the shop in the New Atlantis, so it's quite crazy. But best bits are that I got the kids stuff, which gives me parents, which is like kind of crazy. But I think one time it happened is that my dad has been playing on poker and has won a ship for me. So I got a free spaceship, and I was like, wow, that's wild.
It's pretty nice to have a free spaceship in there. I got that as well. So
also, I upgraded my Frontier to be a B class by replacing its reactor, and also I think I just got a quiz when I met up with the spaceship, and that's again one of the rare occurrences in the planet, and I don't think I got that doing my second playthrough. So it's crazy.
Interesting. That's interesting. I mean, I think in episode 1, like we were looking back at episode 1 and 2, I mainly started off with the Crimson Fleet. That was like my first run, like the first run of the game. The Crimson Fleet was what I did first before I went even into the main story. Really, I adore the Crimson Fleet thing. We discussed it in our spoiler cast, but I do think Crimson Fleet is my favorite of the faction storylines, and definitely recommend playing that one. I really enjoy it. I like all 4 of the factions, but I think Crimson Fleet's my favourite for sure.
I beat it in the second playthrough, and that's amazing. Yeah. Now, episode 3, we met up with Sam Coe, who's voiced by Elias Tufexis, who's also known as Adam Jensen of Deus Ex. He's brilliant.
Oh, yeah, I didn't realise that. That's awesome.
I did mention it in episode 3.
I got a memory of a goldfish. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Who are you again? Where am I? What day is it?
Also, I encountered a weird ass glitch where I got a contraband, and usually I try to sell it in the Wolf. I was like stealing ships in space. Yeah. Well, I think it's on planets. And sometimes when you board a spacer or the pirate ship, you'll often get contraband. So you need to find the contraband, and then once you got it, you can fly that pirate ship, go over to the den, and then sell it to the trade authority. But there's a big glitch there that if you switch your ships while you're in the den, because it's like still attached to the space station, it causes a glitch that if you go into the ship, you get teleported to New Atlantis, which means you'll be given a new ship, but when you fly out of New Atlantis, New Atlantis will be in like space and follows you everywhere.
Oh yes, I've seen that glitch. It's so crazy.
That is still not fixed, but I found out that which works for me is that if you take over the enemy ship, if you go in the cockpit and then you say go into the pause menu, select your ship, and then you make it your home ship, then you walk out and either fly over or walk over to your original ship, and then you make it your home ship. Then you can still get a new ship, and you'll be able to travel much further because of upgrades in it. So it's definitely a way in which you can like get more ships without having to fly a ship back to New Atlantis. But there's another glitch that, well, it's not a glitch, it's just I think it was an oversight on the developer's part, that sometimes if you board a ship on the planet, sometimes they fly over into space, which leaves your old ship behind. So you just go explore the ship, and then once you take out all the enemies, you hop up in the pilot's seat, and it's like, huh? I can't use it because the ship class is either B or C, and I only have like class A, so therefore you just literally get locked out and cannot return to the whole game.
It's so funny. I love that. It's such a funny glitch.
This is why you need to have pilots into the next rank as soon as possible, because you can get all the ships and also avoid getting into dead ends of this whole game. But that is definitely a game-breaking glitch there.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I chose Bounty Hunter as my like starting class, because I wanted to be a good, I have good spaceship skills, so I basically put all my... I think we like. There's a video on the channel where we talk about all the perks in the game. I still think the tech tree is the best tree. Is the one with all the spaceship stuff and all that. So that's worth leveling up straight away. I think I agree with you there.
Yeah,
for sure.
Also, I got perks for targeting enemy ships, and that's how it just made it easier for me to I stole in 2 ships. Also did a couple of missions. Also been grinding my levels out, which is I've now reached over level 50. But I think yours is like still pretty low at that time too. So it's just like
still is.
Yeah.
I'm still like I think I'm like 45, 46. So I still haven't reached that level 50 achievement yet. But yeah, I'll probably go back to it at some point and get that achievement for sure.
There was a mention I know where if you go into a syndicate place there or some sort like that, where there's a way where you can sneak in. I did it from the top instead of like going through the bar there, and then I sneaked in when people are working on things. If you crouch just behind one of the people there, and then you can open the open chest and get a syndicate enforcer, which is a Rakishi sword, which is a short of Japanese sword. So I was able to get that, sell it to the trade authority, and then got it back and to remove the Sterling tag. As it turns out, it was actually doing one of the missions, doing I think it's a Reagent Industries, where you had to sneak through that area in order to meet up with the traitor. And that's how I got that sword again.
Oh, fair enough. With the Ryujin one, that I just killed the woman who was like, I'm not letting you in. I'm like, well, I'm just going to kill you then. And I just stole a key and walked in. Oops.
Yeah. Also, episode 4 got that access to C-class ships. Makes it even interesting. I've been stealing C-class ships on the eastern side of the galaxy. I've also bought over to Xbox saves to CEC version, so I can get even more levels by doing adaptive frame farms.
Oh, right, yes. You've got a farming adaptive frame. Like, because you did a lot of farming. I haven't done any of that, so I need to do that myself.
Yeah, I still recommend you do the animal husbandry farm. It takes a lot longer to set up, but I advise you do the adaptive frame farm first, so you can get enough of them to do other outposts for faster XP gains.
Ooh, yeah. I need to find a guide for that, and then I'll crack on and do that at some point.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also I noticed one of the game-breaking bugs, because at the moment, outposts is like so buggy. Like, you can't interact with the workbenches unless you reload, quick save and then reload. But the biggest one is that you can clip through the ship build landing pad. Like, if you sometimes build up that outpost and then you build a launch pad, sometimes the ship turns invisible, and when you fast travel to it, it's just like get stuck through the ground. And if you exit a ship, you get stuck in an abyss. I was able to escape that by fast traveling to somewhere in the planet, but it can break the game up, and that is just pretty bad. Also, it causes the ship landing pad of the computer to be bugged as long as you have that outpost.
Fair enough. Yeah, you got to be careful with that kind of stuff.
There's some more details in episode 4 anyway, so check it out. But I figured out the cause of this issue, and I haven't brought it up with the Bethesda because you need a Bethesda account to report bugs of some sort, which is a bit awkward. But
yes, if you're listening, fix it.
But what I found out is that if you start the outpost, normally the ship's far away, and if you build an outpost, you can just like put the ship builder with, I think it's a landing pad of ship builder, which gives you a computer to help you locate the ship. Because currently there's a bug that sometimes the ship is placed nearby and you can make it teleport. But as soon as you do the outpost and you put the ship landing pad with ship builder, make sure you like fly out to space by using fast travel and not be overcumbered. Because when you return to the outpost, it should put your ship there. But a bug happens that if you use a computer and try to force the ship to be on the landing pad before you fly out into space for the first time, this will cause it to completely bug itself and causes the ship to turn invisible when it lands on the launch pad. Also, it will remain invisible when you travel elsewhere on the different planets. So to avoid that, build a landing pad with a ship builder, then you fast travel to space, and then come back, and it should put your ship there without causing this glitch.
Right, okay, that's good to know. Yeah, I'll definitely need to take that in note when I build an outpost.
But yes,
I was going to just say in the first playthrough, my first playthrough I did multiple outposts, but in the second playthrough I haven't. Like when I did New Game Plus, I haven't even started doing outposts again. So it is interesting that you've given me that information. I'll have to try and bear that in mind for sure when I start doing new outposts. For sure.
Yeah, I think there's one like few bugs there, and there's also when I got through the middle part of the story where I found out about Starbonds. So you got there first before me, and you encouraged me to do that.
Yes, definitely. I mean, obviously, we don't want to spoil it for people, but yes, the story is. I enjoyed that part of the story. Also, we're on episode 4 at the moment,
and that's where you got married to Sarah as well.
I was just about to say yes, so that was and you got married to Sam in the same episode, I believe.
Oh no, it's probably in the later episode. But when I went into New Atlantis to get more weasels for the outpost, got over the train, and I did the video where Sam goes left behind and said, like, I didn't ask for this. That causes a glitch to happen where, like, whenever I relay the save, Sam is not there, and the only way to get him back is by, you could sleep in the bed for the ship and he would appear, but you had to go to the commercial district or some sort of New Atlantis in order to retrieve Sam. But I also noticed that when you interact with the same ship where they causes a glitch in the first place, that it would pause for a few seconds before you get to the selection of stations. And that glitch is annoying. And also pretty scary because it could break the whole game. So thankfully, when I went to the New Game Plus, kind of clears out that glitch there. So yeah.
So the New Game, and I think that's the good thing with the New Game Plus. It can like sort out some of these like big bugs and stuff. So that's a cool little feature. So I going back to getting married. So this is when I got married to Sarah for the first time. I was happily married. And it was the hardest going into New Game Plus. That was the hardest thing for me, was like saying goodbye to Sarah, to my Sarah. I was like, oh, I'm gonna miss you. And then before I went into New Game Plus, obviously, because you have to start everything over. But I was like, I married on Paradiso, and then you got married to Sam in a later episode. And you went invisible during your wedding, if I remember correctly. If I remember correctly. It was still nice. So yeah, I like the side missions and stuff, and like getting the marriage and I think all that stuff is really cool. I really enjoy that. That's a nice part of the Bethesda experience for sure.
Also, going to episode 5 because we need to speed up. Starfield receives its first patch, and it fixes a few glitches there, but doesn't fix most of the glitches I have. Like the Samco disappearance thing is still not fixed, and not at the time of this recording as well. But but it gets rid of the chest glitches where you can get loads of money from the chest by glitching through like geometry. Now it's like turned invisible. You cannot interact with them, and it's what really annoys people because they otherwise struggle to get more levels and money in the whole game, and so they had to use those glitch chests in order to get loads of money every time they do New Game Plus. So it's crazy.
I never bother with that myself. I prefer to do it legitimately, but I can understand why some people would do that for sure.
Also, I have encountered the glitch that doing one of the main story quests is that whenever I wait in the bed to speed up the skip over to the actual mission, it would freeze the whole game. That is unless I go to Venus to speed up time. But yeah, there's some like bunches of bugs, and I counted some bugs, and then we just end up like going into New Game Plus. I mean, you did it straight away, right?
Pretty much, yeah. New Game Plus. I went straight into New Game Plus. Yeah, because I went. Bear in mind, I went into a new. Like I'll be doing a New Game Plus as soon as I finished, and I was like, well, I'm not going to touch the Freestar Collective or the UC or Ryujin Industries. I did Crimson Fleet, the main story, and I was like, well, I'll do New Game Plus, and then I'll do all the other side missions when I'm in my New Game Plus mode. So I was already prepared to move over at that point in the game. So yeah, I already mentally prepared myself before I got to that point. So yeah.
Also, to me, I just like built up a new ship, which according to the notes, I got 7,000 cargo. I swear it's a lot more when I get over to New Game Plus. I got 40 power from the reactor for the which is a C class. Got strong primary guns as well as shielded cargo and a multi-jammer so we can skip scanning for contraband achievement, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I've also mopped up all the miscellaneous achievements like for plants, organic, inorganic resources and everything, as well as visiting all the star systems and landing in 100 planets, and that's all of that is done, which kind of slows down the saving progress before I actually went to New Game Plus.
So I was going to say a New Game Plus. I also my main ship was called the Nakamura in my first run after the rest of Shinsuke Nakamura. So I made the Nakamura 2. And I just basically built a new ship, but it was based on the what's it called, the Frontier. So I used the Frontier as a template and it built off it basically. But then after I beat the Freestar Collective, I used the Star ship that they give you at the end. Can't remember what it's called now. That's my current ship. Is the ship from the Freestar Collective because I like that ship and I think it's really cool. So that's my current ship at the moment in my second playthrough. And yeah, as you said about those achievements, I still haven't done those. I would say the grindy, annoying achievements, and I got to go around to doing them at some point. But it is frustrating that and I want to discuss that later on when I get to my review score as well. So I won't go into too much detail now. But yeah. I still need to do those myself. The ones that you've said you've already completed. So I need those. Those are on my list to do list.
But anyway, I think that episode 5 was the plan in, and it was originally when we haven't beaten the main story, but I think episode 5 is when I've beaten the main story quicker than I thought, and that's when let's do the episode 5 for the main story spoiler cast, and we do 6 to 7 on like the faction story lines, but I think we're already like 30 minutes in, and I think we're just going to skip over them if you don't mind, because
I was going to say, because they're spoiler cast episodes, if you guys have finished the game, so we got this free spoiler cast for you guys to check out. So there is the main story spoiler cast if you've beaten the main plot. Then there's a spoiler cast which is Crimson Fleet and Ryujin, which is like the baddie factions, I guess. And then there's a another spoiler cast for the UC and for the Freestyle Collective. So if you're enjoying this game, if you've 100% of the game and you want to listen to what people think about those stories plots, you've got 3 whole spoiler casts to go through. So, but we're not going to go into, obviously we're not going to go into detail now because that would involve going into spoilers. And if you want spoilers, go check out the spoiler cast. This is like this non-spoiler episode, I think.
Well, speaking of which, right now. I think we also don't have a lot to talk about episode 8 because I think it talks about the achievements which we already discussed about.
Yes.
Luckily for me, I able to do the achievements, whereas you were taking a break before reaching 1,000 gamer score, and I think it's just true. When he you went out of juice for the game.
Yes, I believe so. And then also, I know we're an Xbox podcast and an Xbox channel, but also Mario Wonder came out and Spider-Man 2 came out. I have a PS5 and a Switch, and I want to play both of those games. And I'm kind of do I want to spend hours doing really boring, tedious, grindy achievements on Starfield, or do I want to play my new games? The result is I'm playing my new games. So I'm currently playing Mario Wonder. I need to go back and finish Spider-Man because I started Spider-Man but never finished it. So that's so I haven't got round to finishing the 1,000 gamer score yet, though. But that is still on my list, my to-do list. I will hopefully get back to doing that at some point. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, I got all the achievements before doing this. The new game plus, which is focusing on the factions, and that's when I got the rest of the achievements there. Because it's possible to get all the miscellaneous achievements before you finish the new game plus, but it was through New Game Plus that not only got the Starbond dialogues, but it was also the point where I realized that you can get as far as 12 star powers in the game, and then you had to beat the last battle before you go into one giant leap that you get to collect the rest of the powers for the temples. And I said how tedious it is to go through all the temples. And I think that was our last episode, and that's when we went into much greater detail. But that one kind of sucks all that fun now. Also, the amount of bugs I've been experiencing in the game, which arguably New Game Plus second playthrough is better for me, but it still kind of puts me a little bit on the edge whether there's a glitch that's going to ruin all that progress for me. But I still managed to go in and built another cool ship there. But I think it's just at that point I felt I could go through the second New Game Plus, but I'm no, I think I would probably leave it alone, especially I got all the achievements with it. So I'll probably have to wait until the game gets more glitches sorted out. But at the time of writing that, Bethesda hasn't released an actual patch that will fix loads of bugs there. And I feel the hot fixes just did very little for it, just to say, oh, we do care about this game. But I think at this point, it's just that everyone's completely jumped off Starfield, not minding the fact people are getting Xboxes for Christmas where they would play Starfield.
I was just about to say that, yeah. I was about to say, I'm sure there's going to be people jumping into Starfield throughout the next, as I said, 5-6 years, I imagine, and people will be coming back to it, especially if it gets a resurgence like Cyberpunk has, because I've heard a lot of people going back and playing Cyberpunk now, 3 years later, just because of the DLC that they've just dropped. I can see that being the same thing with Starfield for sure. So
we went through all the notes there, and that's really fantastic. I thought there would be 2 hours.
Yeah, I tried to cut. We don't want to go through. I mean, if you want to listen to our thoughts on all this stuff, hopefully they're kind of evergreen podcasts that they will if you're new to Starfield, you can just check out all of these podcasts, and they should still be relevant for you because they're not timed. They don't go off. They don't go out of date.
Well, anyway, so we need to press on, and chances are both of us have already played the game for over 200 hours, and that is one of those games where we've invested so much time in a single player campaign game. So, did you find the game still good after all that time?
Yeah, I love this game. This is still one of my favorite games ever, I would say. It's still up there. This is my favorite Bethesda game. And I know I liked Skyrim, I liked Fallout, but I never spent this much time in those games. I just like the setting and the world and the characters, and I'm a big sci-fi nut. Like I've said this before, is like if you give me a choice between watching Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, I'll watch Star Wars. I'm a sci-fi person. I prefer like science fiction, to be honest. And I really enjoy it. Yeah, it's a great game. And I think if Zelda Tears of the Kingdom didn't come out this year, it would probably be my game of the year. But unfortunately, it came out in a really stacked year of amazing games.
It would have been great if it's released like last year, and that's when Xbox ran dry for the autumn-winter period.
Unfortunately, yeah. Like last year was a bit of a rubbish year to be an Xbox fan, but this year has been more than made up for it, I think, with Hi-Fi Rush.
And Redfall.
I wasn't going to mention Redfall because that was a negative. That was a bad part of the year. Yes. And also Redfall for people who are psychotic and like bad games. It's like the people who like watching the film The Room, or like people who just love bad games, and they'll oh yes, Redfall was amazing for you guys, but for the average person, no.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah. So I enjoyed it. After 200 hours, I would still highly recommend it. I think it's a brilliant game. How did you feel about the game after 200 hours, Alice?
Well, it started out well, but I think the game isn't like a incredibly great experience. I was kind of hoping that's like more of a game of the year type of the material, but as I played through it, it's just like because I enjoyed Skyrim and Oblivion all those years ago, I tend to enjoy the game more than the average player. But I think it's just like going through it, been playing it for hours, and I just think it's just like really fantastic. So it's fun, it's very addictive, but it's just one of those times that I feel like I want to play for a few more hours, but I just feel like I don't really want to like get too obsessed with this game, and I need a serious break from it. But at the same time, I'm like running out of juice, and I just wish that it would have a lot of bugs fixed out, because I just feel like you want to get addicted. It's just like taking a drug. Like you want to get addicted to the game, and you want to do this stuff, but one way or the other, you end up losing your progress and kind of ruins your entire life.
Yeah, what was the name of the drug in the game again? The fish. Can't remember what it's called now.
Aurora.
Yeah, this game is the Aurora of real life.
Yes.
The drug fish. Delicious.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, though, because it's one of those games that you do want to get like invested in. Like, I thought it was an interesting. One of the podcasts I was listening to, they were saying about like live service is like a big thing now in the gaming industry. That Bethesda does these games that are essentially almost like live service but single player.
Yes.
Like games that last you like years. Like I could keep playing this game for like the next 6-7 years if I wanted to, but I've had my fill at the moment, but I'm sure I'll go back to it because I really enjoyed it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so now we get to the glitches, and they say that the Starfield has no glitches, or the least amount of glitches in any Bethesda game. And I did say that I find this really fake, because I have encountered a bunch of bugs, and it's just like how you encountered Skyrim at launch. Like, there's a lot of visual glitches that don't normally affect you, but there's been glitches that affect on how I would navigate through maps. There's glitches that causes the game to crash, and there's glitches that persist throughout the main playthrough, and you have no way to escape them. And you already like encountered the glitch during the 3-star ranges, which affected your progress, right?
Yes. So I was going to mention that at some point. So we're talking about our favorite glitches and our least, like our worst and best, which is a bit of a weird thing to say about glitches, I suppose. But because there shouldn't really be any best glitch, but there was some funny ones, to be fair. They only had the one major glitch, the one game-breaking glitch, but it was enough to make me lose like 3 or 4 hours of progress, maybe even more than that, like a day's worth of progress. The 3-star collective. There's this area called the Red Mile, and I needed to speak to this woman, and she just wouldn't talk to me. She, like, no matter what I did, she wouldn't talk to me. So I had to basically go back to an old save file from like 2 days previous, and then load it up from there and start over, essentially. Which made me lose a load of progress on like the UC collective and stuff like that, which I already completed at that point. So it's annoying, but yeah, I still enjoyed the game a lot. But that did detract a lot from me. That was my worst glitch. It sounds like you've had a lot more glitches than me, because like up until that point, I was confidently saying that I've had really no bad experiences at all up until that point. That was literally after I completed the main story, after I completed most of the side quests. That's when I got this bad glitch. So my majority of my experience was pretty flawless, to be honest.
Well, so did you encounter what it could be described as your best glitch? Because you already mentioned it, your worst one.
Yeah, well, yeah, the worst one. I mean, best glitch? I mean, there's not really a good glitch, is there? But there's some funny ones. Like, there's some on the YouTube channel we put up as shorts. Like, the Sam Coe, just basically, I was talking to Sam Coe and it just zoomed in on his face and he just literally, like so close to it. It's just like, I need some personal space here, Sam. Like, that's up on the channel as well as shorts. And as the security guard just floated on one leg past me. That was quite funny. And my going headless briefly was also quite funny. I'm trying to think if there's any other funny glitches. That was about it. And like sometimes someone will clip through a wall or something silly like that. But yeah, it's not like as I said, I've had one bug that ruined the game for me, but the rest of the bugs are just funny. And they don't detract from the game for me, really, to be honest. It's a shame, though. It is a shame because it's a shame it kind of ruined your experience, because like you seem to have a much worse experience when it came to bugs than I did, for sure.
Yeah, well, I do have a much better breadth of all the glitches there, yeah, and it's really difficult to find the best ones, because I certainly found a lot of good ones there. I mean, there's glitches I haven't tried, which is shipbuilding. You can attach any part regardless of a spaceship design rank. There's one where you build a ship that has empty middle, so you don't get shot and become invincible, and that's crazy. That's also, there's a really funny one, is that sometimes you stay invisible, and that's what happened to Sam Coe's Reading with me.
Yeah, yes, that was funny, yeah.
But I think the best one for me is that, that's a quite difficult one. That's really hard to tell, because I think there's certain glitches that became really useful. I wouldn't consider like XP farms to be the best glitches, whereas people who found the chests where you can like clip, like you crouch down and point to the ground and you get stuff and chests in like New Atlantis, and that is like crazy. And there's also things like duplicating ships, but oh gosh, it's a bit of a tricky one. But I think that, I don't know, that, because I know there's some like a bunch of like really good glitches there, but I think, I don't know, I just can't remember. I think the best glitch is that, that's right, XP farm where you set up an animal husbandry and you have, I don't know if it's glitch, it's more of an exploit actually. This is where you blow up all the animals and they're generated with a horn nest shotgun. You interact with the door to repair it, and then you keep respawning animals for like more XP. And I think this is like one of the best exploits in the whole game, alongside
you monster.
the aluminium farm as well, which is like really cool. But I think the best glitch for me, oh gosh, I was going to mention it, but I think I kind of forgot about it. But I think the best glitch is that you reload the game to reroll the legendary loot, and like if you reload the save and then you enter into the, say, a dungeon or a lab of some sort, it causes the loot to reroll. Because if you set your settings to very hard and you enter into the cell there, you discover more legendary enemies. But once you get the enemies down to like just at a low health, then you might be able to still you may not get as much on like very easy, but once you get down to like their lowest health, make a quick save, load it again, and then you kill those enemies off and you have a chance to get legendary items. And if you don't get what you wanted, reload the game, keep keep killing the enemy, and you may eventually get legendary loot. And that's how I used it to get more legendary loot for both of my playthroughs. Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, so that's more of an exploit, but I get what you're saying for sure. That's a good idea. That's something like I could do as well. But yeah, I've tried to avoid using exploits and stuff, to be honest, in my room. But I don't take any away from people who want to use them. That's totally fine. I used to do it all the time when I was younger, but I just try to play it normally myself. But I get it for sure, totally. I think it's a cool thing. So should we talk about the DL?
Well, I haven't even mentioned the worst one, but I think my favorite glitch is that in Skyrim has much better glitches for doing stuff like that, where if you make an item and you give it like some enchantments, which usually improves on how you craft items. So if you use an enchantment to craft better items with better bonuses, use those items with bigger bonuses to enchant to have bigger enchantments, and eventually you have super powered armor because you keep doing the loop with the enchantments and potions, and then you eventually get stupidly high bonuses, so it makes you like really invincible. Unfortunately, Starfield does not have that because you're only restricted to like mods, and the only kinds the closest thing you get to potions is basically like getting things where it improves your oxygen and endurance, and doesn't do like research projects, but you do have XP gains, which you can get as far as like 3%. So it's more disappointing in Starfield compared to Skyrim, where you can literally cheese the whole game with potions and enchantments. And I thought, I love this kind of loop there.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I do love Skyrim as well. I think it's a great game, but yeah, that is like interesting. I need to do some more glitches in Skyrim and stuff.
Well, the worst one is, I would say that a lot of them are in outposts, and I did mention about the landing pad of shipbuilder glitch, and I think there's a bunch of glitches that are like really bad, but I think the worst one is just like, well, to do with ships really, that if you make certain decisions of ships or trying to get them to certain places, it causes them to like bug out and affects the rest of your playthrough, and I have to keep reloading the save. So I think the worst one is just like, well, actually I think it's like sometimes it bugs the companions and bits like that, but I think the invisible ship is like the worst glitch there, because if you get to the point where your ship turns invisible, you can't fast travel to it if you're ever encumbered. So you have to drop all the items on the ground, teleport to it, but make sure you fly out and not like exit the ship, otherwise you'll be in the abyss. And I think it happened to me a few times before, but some people have got that happen to them in some situations. Also, it's even worse that if you get to the ship, and sometimes if it's on a thing like a bugged landing pad of a shipbuilder, then it will cause your interiors to fly with you and leaving the external casing behind. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is a total nightmare.
That's kind of funny though in a weird way.
Yeah.
Away. You're in the vacuum of space without like the actual outside of your ship. It's like, what's going on?
So yeah, DLC. The only confirmed DLC in the moment is Shattered Space, and it makes me think. Yeah, so it just makes me think whether there's going to be a bit of a story with it. So, do you think that the Shattered Space will probably improve things, and would it add a bits of extra content, or is it just like going to be a story-based one, like the Shivering Isles or some of the expansion packs for Fallout 3? What would you think?
I mean, I to be honest, I haven't played any of the DLC for Fallout 3, I've heard some really good stuff, but I've basically only played the base games of each of these. So I don't really know what to expect, to be honest. I don't really know how Bethesda does their DLC. Only thing I was going to say is I think that this DLC might revolve around, well, there's two things it could be. Like, I think either, it's called Shattered Space, so I can imagine there being more like multiverse stuff. That might be interesting.
Oh, that would be cool.
But I was thinking maybe House Varun, because there's not much House Varun stuff in the game, and I feel like they're like kind of ripe for potential. Really, there just seems like there's so much stuff they could talk about with the House Varun stuff, and like I'm sure they could do a whole DLC with just that. But they've had some really interesting DLCs in like previous like Bethesda games, like you can turn into a werewolf and stuff like that. Like there's some really odd ones, so I'm sure they'll come up with something crazy.
Yeah, you
like,
mentioned about the DLCs for Skyrim, and I feel Skyrim is like the best Bethesda game for that. Like you have Dawnguard DLC, which gives you crossbows as well as some perks when you turn into werewolf or the vampire, and that is what really makes it more interesting. There's also Hearthstone, which is the first time where you get to build a house in like Skyrim. Been using that feature, love it. It just gives me a very nice home to live in instead of buying one of the houses there. And there's also Dragonborn, which adds more to the game, and you get to like, I think it raises the level cap, but I think it adds more stuff like riding dragons, for instance. But yeah, I really enjoy all those DLCs. So I hate with the Shattered Space, it adds more to the game than just like adding extra missions. So I hope, like you said, adding some multiverse variations into it would make the game more interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe we'll actually find humanoid aliens at some point.
That would be such an amazing thing.
I want to bang a green alien woman like in Mass Effect.
You make yourself sound like Rimmer from Red Dwarf.
Yeah. No, just like I want it. Like we'll bang, okay? Like what's his name? Like Commander Shepard.
Yes.
No, I think that might be something they might, because I feel like that's the only thing that's really missing from this game is maybe that. But I guess they wanted to go for a bit more of a human-based space exploration, which I get that. But I think that's something they could definitely add with DLC for sure.
That leads to this whole thing that, do you really believe Starfield will improve within 5 years?
Yeah, definitely. I think so.
I think so too.
I feel like I know I keep going back to it, but Phantom Liberty from Cyberpunk seems like a really good example. That game was completely broken at launch, and now everyone seems to love it. 3 years later, they fixed all the issues. They've added all these new features and stuff. And
you talk about Cyberpunk 2077, is it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like everyone seems to love it now. That's some people's game of the year, even though it's been out for 3 years. So whatever.
I need to still check that out.
I do as well. But like, yeah. So I'm just saying, like, they've got a really good base here. They've got so much they can like expand on. They could just add a new star system, and then that's literally like 5 planets. They could just add like new like plots on each one or whatever. You know, there's so much they could do. There's so many planets, so much like of a massive world that they can add on to. Like this is like the perfect game for modders and stuff as well. It's going to be
yes, because when you consider like you have loads of planets, these are like really barren. But to me, I think these are more like canvases where mods can freely put their extra maps and everything into it, which means it's really wide for you to install as many mods as you can to make Starfield so huge. And this leads to what I hope in 5 years. Hopefully there will be a higher priority on like fixing bugs as well as like having enough mods. Because at the moment, I think the creation engine is not fully unlocked for everyone. But when that happens, people would have more ways in which they can customize the game. And of course, being able to have loads of content so that when people load up Starfield on, say, the PC and then be able to like load as many mods as they can, it will improve their game. Bear in mind, the mod support is not currently available for Xbox. But Bethesda said they will be introducing to it soon. But I would imagine it will be like Skyrim, where you have to sign up for the Bethesda account in order to load more mods into the game.
Creation Club as well, yeah. I mean, also, I was going to say is that Bethesda, when they designed this game, they said that like with Skyrim and with like Fallout 3 and New Vegas and all that, they didn't plan on that to be a game that people play for years and years and years and expanded on and put mods on. Whereas they put that was like front and center when they were designing Starfield. They wanted to make a game that was moddable and what was going to be like expansive, and they could keep building on for like years and years and years. So they've already planned for this. So I imagine this is going to be a much different game in 5 years' time. And I'm
yeah.
excited to see where it goes, for sure. For sure, I'm very excited.
So, are you updating your review score?
I am, yeah. So I was going to... this is what I wanted to discuss briefly. So when we did the initial reviews for this game, I gave it a 10 out of 10, perfect score. And I stand by it for the most part, but I think I'm going to deduct a point, and I'm going to go down to 9 out of 10, which is still a pretty good score. Mainly because I had that game-making glitch in the Freestyle Collective where I couldn't finish the story and I lost a couple of hours of progress, which was really frustrating. And then also, I've come to the point now where I've just got grindy achievements, and I don't think the achievements are not very good. They're not very well designed. The fact that you have to do,
I agree.
And you have to go to 100 planets, every solar system, get 300 organic materials, which is broke anyway. All that's basically, but basically it encourages you to go to every planet and to build outposts on every planet, and then, as you've said multiple times, because you've done that, your game is now slower and buggy because of it.
Yes.
So they're encouraging you to break your game, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Because
it's a bit of a weird thing.
It takes a lot longer to get high levels, and it's really difficult to get loads of money, especially if you want to build new ships in New Game Plus. And getting New Game Plus strips away a lot of it, which means you had to grind again, which kind of saps the fun out of it, which is why people want those exploits in so they can quickly raise levels and get more money. But it just seems Bethesda's trying to prioritize on getting rid of these exploits, as far as their first patch is released.
So so at the moment, I mean, they're going to obviously fix it. So in a year's time, it probably will be a 10 out of 10. But at this moment in time, I'm putting it down to a 9. But I still think this is one of the best games of the year. I still love it. It's my favorite Bethesda game. I think the ambition of this game is fantastic. It's one of the most ambitious video games ever made, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm really happy with it, and I think it's a fantastic game. But I can't, in my right mind, give it a 10 out of 10 after I had that game-breaking glitch and after what we've discussed. But still 9 out of 10, still fantastic, still highly recommend it, and I would recommend it to anyone who, this is my first Bethesda game that I really got into, even though I have played the other ones before, but this is the first one I've finished. And, I love it. I still love this game. So it's not a 9 out of 10 is not a bad score. I just don't think I could give it a perfect score after basically getting essentially completing the game, but still having 300 gamer score to taste because there's so many grindy achievements, and also that one game breaking glitch really ruined my experience a little bit as well.
That's an interesting thing because Oblivion, Skyrim, and even Fallout games have extra points, which ranges from 250 to 500. So I wouldn't be surprised if Starfield would increase it to say 2,000 or 3,000. But as you said, glitches kind of makes you feel I'm not sure if I keep climbing towards 3,000, for instance. But yeah.
I still really, as I said, don't want people to get the wrong idea. I still think this game's fantastic. I just don't think I could give it a 10 out of 10 after the last few hours of my experience, even though I did really enjoy it. I also didn't really like the Ryujin stuff. I thought that was stealth isn't as good as well designed as it should be, really, which is a shame. But apart from that, I still enjoy this game a lot, and I would recommend it. And if Zelda wasn't out this year, I'd probably be my game of the year still.
Now, I need to say my opinion because we're already over the hour for this when we're hoping for 30 minutes. But so to me, doing the special episode where we do our final review of Starfield, I wasn't expecting this today, but I originally gave it 8 out of 10, assuming it will be good in 5 years' time. And I feel this would be reflective of this. But if I was to base on that, and Bethesda is not going to be releasing huge updates in the next year, because at the moment, everyone's lost the juice out of it. I've encountered some glitches, and also certain gameplay loops are not well defined. Like, it's really good if you play it for 100 hours, but eventually you just get less fun out of it. And now I'm just like feeling like I'm not sure if I really feel comfortable like coming back to the game. So I think to me, this is looking like a 7 out of 10 for me, because I just feel like 8 out of 10 is only applicable if Starfield's been out for years. And I think that would be in a more fair score for it. But this is actually more of a 7 out of 10 for this whole game, because I just don't think this is pretty much at the state they would be good. And also, it's not something that people will be going back to. But once you put lots of mods into it, the game will be much better. But I think by now, this is probably the point where Bethesda games are starting to like get more stale, when Starfield is just pretty much like focusing on like the biggest ambition and actually exploring the star systems. And I feel this is like setting up a huge canvas for all the mods there. And I think that's the positive out of it. But to me, the game is pretty much like not at the best right now. So if you're looking at trying out Starfield right now, then you could get it on Game Pass and that's fine. But if you're going to buy it, wait until it drops down in price on sale and wait about 3 years for it, because at the moment it's probably not worth the high asking price of, say, $70 or some sort. I'm not sure.
I mean, I don't agree with that at all, but I appreciate your opinion for sure. For me, I still think this is definitely worth $70. I think it's one of the best games of the year. It's still a lot of fun. I really enjoyed my experience with it. Yeah, as I said, that one bug made me think I couldn't really give it a perfect score anymore. But yeah, I'm sad that you feel like that, because I thought I really enjoyed this game. I thought it was great. But I guess it's quite a divisive game. It's quite Marmite for people, isn't it? Like, I mean, that's a British term, Marmite, isn't it?
That's not to say I don't enjoy the game. It's just I enjoy playing this game, and I still feel like I want to come back to it. But the game is still flawed. And that's what many people are saying, that 7 out of 10 doesn't mean it's a bad game. As long as you enjoy it, that's all that matters. And it's just that it has a lot of flaws. And to me, it doesn't feel at all to me like it's a 9 or 10. And I feel that 8 is pretty much a maximum for this game, which I imagine to be the case in the next few years.
I mean, we can agree to disagree on this one. I think it's good that we have different opinions. And as I said, this game is Marmite. 3 out of 10, like some games, like it's not Redfall where everyone knows his shit, but it's not Zelda that everyone knows is a masterpiece. It's like some people like it, some people don't. It's like, that's fair enough.
7 is considered to be an average here, so it's not like everyone's giving it 5s or 4s. And even so, some people don't really get on with this game at all, and I respect them just as much as I respect people who give it 9 or 10 out of 10. Just shows that they do enjoy what it offers in the game. But yeah, it's pretty much fair enough. But I think, given what Metacritic has given for the game, I was kind of like disappointed it didn't have that much of a good score. But because I placed a lot of hours into it, I eventually get to understand the whole Metacritic thing and understand it's pretty much like 7 out of 10 for me at least. But I still hope the Starfield will actually improve eventually. But if I did have a thing like my saves got corrupted, or I couldn't play the game anymore because of a huge glitch, that would have been reduced much further. But if the Bethesda did say that it doesn't have a lot of glitches, and they are right in doing that, because they did literally had 1 or 2 years to work on the game and iron out all of the glitches, then it would have illustrated this to be a 9 or 10 out of 10 for the whole experience. But it wasn't really that much for me, really. Okay.
As I said, like, it's a different opinion, which is totally valid. It's a valid opinion.
So
but as you said about glitches and stuff, as I've said before, I've not had any of these glitches apart from after I beat the game and I was going into side quests and I had that one bad glitch. Apart from that, I've had a pretty flawless experience. So, but yeah, as I said, it's different for different people, I suppose. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments below. That would be fantastic to hear what your final scores are. I would love to hear that.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I love. It's nice that we can discuss this and have different opinions. I think it's great.
And it's also a good point to end this on, because this is our last episode. We moved on into other pastures, been reading a lot of One Piece. You've been playing a lot of Super Mario Wonder and Spider-Man 2. So I think it just pretty much says that we can wrap up Starfield for now. So, I mean, hey there, we were supposed to do special episodes, but we ended up doing one-off videos. And I think this is going to be the case with Starfield as well. So I'd like to thank everyone who's been listening to the episodes of this podcast and being able to enjoy Starfield. So I'm really happy for anyone who's given some time to play the game and checked it out. And wherever your opinions are, it's just all matters. So
yeah, I want to second that as well. I agree with everything you just said for sure. Hopefully, we might come back for the DLC. It depends how big the DLC expansion is when it comes out, and if there's any other big news that happens with Starfield. If it's a Starfield 2, maybe we'll do a podcast on that. But yeah, we're not sure what the future holds. But at the moment, this is the end of our limited run podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. If there's any other games coming out on Xbox or anything that you would be interested to hear another limited run podcast, let us know. I'd be really interested. I enjoyed this game. We both enjoyed this game to a certain point, and I enjoyed doing this podcast with you, Alice. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And I think this has been a really fun time doing this podcast. And stay tuned. We're still doing videos on the channel. This isn't the end of the Xbox the Box channel. There's still loads of content up on the channel. We'll probably have our Game of the Year stuff coming up next month and stuff like that. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, if you've been listening to it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever, and you've been following Space Skyrim, be sure to follow our YouTube channel at xmarksthebox after the @ symbol, and you'll be able to have even more content. So thanks for all listening, and until then, take care.
Goodbye, Starboards. Take care.
Bye-bye.
See you in the next universe. Thank you for listening to the X Marks the Box podcast. Follow us at xmarksbox on Twitter or X Marks the Box on YouTube. And follow us on all audio podcast services. Thanks for listening.